So let's slap some of these pieces together and see how they're going to look. So I need an assembly for that. No problemo. We create an assembly. Right there. Now we can drag our parts in. We're going to place, let's place the inner hub. And that is fine, but it's not the direction I want it to be in. So we're just going to say OK. Because I'm working off the front. Yeah, it probably doesn't matter. Let's just take that and let's do a rotate on it. And get it about the right direction. That's fine. Now I want to align that with the axes, so we have something to work with. You probably don't have to do this, but I did run into some issues earlier on. See, now if you look at my axes, they are not lined up with the part because the part just gets set willy-nilly. So let's fix that. I'm going to do a constrain, and I'm going to grab that face, and then I'm going to grab a plane, and it puts it backwards there. And now we're good on that plane. Now the other axis is off also. So we're going to take the XY and we're going to line that up with the axis of the part. No problem. Take that, and then we'll take that and say good. So now our planes are cutting through the center of the parts, and we can use that reference later on if needed. Let's take another part. Oh, and I want to ground that. I don't want that part to move, because then I'll lose my relationship to those planes we just spent all that time putting it into. So now that part does not move. It just stuck there. You see what I did? Right click it and select grounded. It's good to have at least one grounded part when you're slapping stuff together. Let's slap another piece. Let's place the inner hub. No, let's place the wheel. And we can just throw that in there, and then we can place the outer hub right there, and say OK. Now we want, see, they don't line up now. We can fix that. We'll go back to our constraint, and we're going to pick the axis of here to the axis of this one. And since this part was grounded, this part had to move to it. So if we say OK, we just slide it over, and we should still be lined up with our planes. And we appear to be. And we can move this around, but it has to stay centered or concentric with that piece. So all I'm doing is sliding it back and forth along an imaginary shaft, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to do the same thing with this piece. Throw a constraint, take the axis, say OK. Now I can separate that, and now this is sort of our sandwich that's going to be made up. And this is where we kind of figure out what length of shaft we want. So if I stuck these pieces together like so, take another constraint, and we'll pick this face to that face, say apply, and then we'll take this face to this face, say OK. Now they are nice and rigid. However, that hole is not centered. I must have forgot to do that, didn't I? Yep, that's exactly the way it's going to turn out. My wheel is going to do that when I get done with it. I better fix it now, otherwise I'll be screaming later. Let's go back to the wheel. Take that hole, get rid of that damn thing. Let's make another hole. Yeah, I'm stupid. Hole right there. Reference. Make sure we pick the right side. That one. Okay. So if it didn't work this time, my wheel is not round. And all I can think of is, how do they know? Jeez. Save that part. We'll go back into the assembly. And now is our wheel true? No, we are not on the correct axis because, see, it doesn't like that because we changed the hole. But the constraint was kind of pissed off about it. So it just got rid of it, the constraint. So we're going to cancel that. Let's go to relationships. And we want to find that part. That one right there. That's, see, we already got an error right there. It doesn't like the mate. No problem. Delete the damn thing. This part now can move anywhere it wants. You'd think it would have fixed that. And maybe it does in different... the program's got issues. So, let's take another constraint. Axis of this. Axis of that. Now if we spin it, it looks nice and true. Okay. I know. I got sidetracked. Don't mess with me. Where was I? Oh, we want a collet. Let's throw the collet in there. And we want that to be also aligned with our axis. So when this thing is in the chuck, you're going to have it's going to have a little slop room. Your nut's going to be there. So we'll say it's about like that. So I want my shaft to go cleanly through to the back side of the collet so I get good, even clamping pressure. A little bit of slop room, enough room for this, room for this, room for this, and a nut. Oh, we don't have a nut. Let's grab a nut. We're going to come from the content center. And I already have a flange nut right here. So let's just grab that. It's going to be a 1/2 inch by 13. Excuse me. Say OK. And we'll line that one up also. Now we just got to find that sucker and drag it out of there. There you are. So that's about how our sandwich is going to go. There may be a washer, there may not be a washer. So this is going on the assumption that I'm going to be using only 3/4 inch wheels. That is why I wanted to have this representation here, because you can get wheels in 1/2 inch and 1 inch in 6 format, or maybe go an 8-inch wheel. I've got room for either, and I don't want to have to make a new arbor. So this is where the actual finicky planning works here. I'm going to, let's go to view here. And I want to do a half section view. And let's come off of right in the middle of that. And say OK. So this is what we got. These are our pockets. So that's free space, that's free space, that's free space. But since we have to be threaded for the nut, I do want a little bit of register somewhere in here to keep this piece from just flopping around on the threads. Threads make a very lousy register. So I want this part to be at least, partially on there and yet be able to accommodate different parts. So I may have to make this wider to accommodate. So let's change a couple of things. I want to move this part out here. This, I want to undo that face. And that would be that mate, I believe. So I'm going to suppress that. So now I can move it off here. So let's say we have a 1-inch wheel. Our shaft is still going to have the threads length to accommodate it, and yet enough of a clean shaft for this to ride on and register. So let's start with that. So what's a good distance here? Let's take we'll go to inspect. Distance from this face to the nut, and that gives us a little over 5 inches. And I'll probably want a little bit to stick out of here, And over here, so let's say 5.5, just to see. Remember, once this gets pressed on, the shaft can no longer be adjusted between this face and the start and end of our threads. Okay, so we got a general thing. Let's just start off with 6 inches, and we'll play with that, and you'll see why in a moment. So let's start another part. Again, start with a sketch. And we're going to do, of course, 1/2 inch, or 495, but we're going to say 1/2 inch. It won't matter to the program. It will still let everything assemble because we don't have interference turned on. We're not getting that classy. And I'm going to say that's good. And we're going to see, we said 5.5, 6. Let's do 5 inches to start with. And say okay. Now, why 5 inches, Ed? It's going to be too short. Kind of. Yeah, we're going to resize this later on. I want to compound this because I want to be able to color these differently, and yeah, I'm going to explain that in a second. So let's just do it. Do another sketch off this face. Same damn thing. I could have shared the sketch, but I heard that's bad practice. So we won't do that. Now I'm going to extrude this, and I want that to be 1.5 inches. And I buggered up. Let me undo that. We're going to redo this. But again, I want to pick a different solid. We're going to make that a new solid because I want to kind of treat that as a different piece so I can color it differently. I don't know if it's trying to show the break line or is that piece off. No, we don't care. Now let's take this piece and thread it. So let's grab a thread. And I'll just click on that. Full length is fine, which also helps. We don't have to kind of decide. I just want all that threaded. And since it's a 1/2 inch shaft, it should kind of zero in on what you want. So it picked 1/2 by 13, and oddly enough, that's what I want. So I can say apply. Now we got a threading there, and we can color that. So let's take that solid body there, and let's make that something easy to see, something reddish. Yeah, how about that? Kind of weird looking, ain't it? Let's make this one a different color. I don't really care what. For giggles, throw a chamfer on here. So that's our shaft. And we're going to save that as a shaft. Back to the assembly. And I didn't want that. Get out of there. I want to just place. I'm going to place a shaft. And yeah, it's backwards. I think there's a way to change that orientation as you're putting it in. Damned if I know how. Oh, here we go. We can rotate. No, it didn't rotate, did it? There. Let's just say okay, and let's get rid of that one. And we want to set up the center lines again. Okay. When I was farting around, I noticed because the threading here. Come on, Space Mouse, cooperate. Is just, it's not even a texture, it's just an overlay saying, yeah, some threads will probably be here, but the part remains straight across, and then when you're in a cross section view, you can't tell the difference. So by making my shaft in quote unquote 2 pieces, it lets me tell where the threads are going to start. So now I can slide this in here and see how much register I've got to play with here, because this don't count. Remember, don't register off a thread. So if I'm using 3/4 inch wheel and I slap that up there, and the nut, oops, bastard, and the nut follows, I've got that much thread inside the hub, so I'm good there. If, let's say, this wheel is a 1/2 inch wheel and I need to do some narrow grinding, I can get them in 1/2 inch. So let's make that 1/2 inch instead. Go back to our wheel and we'll just edit the extrusion. Quit being a jerk. Edit feature, and we'll say 1/2 inch. No, I said 0.5. Let's check if it changes the assembly. So now, if I squeezed in here, okay, I know I'm going to have a washer. That's not a big deal. And maybe that's probably the better way to go. I could fine-tune this thread to stop here, so I don't need a washer. But it's a small price to pay to have all that nice register meat in there. If we slid this down to like that, okay, so let's say that's the smallest I'm going to go. So let's go back and change that to a 1 inch wheel. Again, we're going to edit the feature. Hey, I'm a newbie at this. I am only scratching the surface of this software. So I don't know all the tips and tricks and how to make things work exactly right. So now, make sure our view is squared up. I'm only going to have that teeny bit of register in there. That's not good. You see, this is, this is going to be chucked up in the mill head, and I don't want this sticking out so far that it's going to interfere with what I'm doing. But you know, you got to do what you got to do. So let's just say I want at least that much for a register with a 1 inch. I am not going to go any wider than that. No, right there. Let's just leave it at half engagement. No washer. And let's see how that works out with a the 1/2 inch wheel, which or the 3/4 inch wheel, which I have all of right now. I've got one 1 inch wheel, no 1/4 inch wheels. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Let's go back to 3/4. That's just fine. That's where I want it. My threads will stop in here. You'll always have a little bit of slop room at the face of your nut, so I should be able to get that pretty close on target. This is for 1 inch already, so this size can actually come down. I'm going to be anal. Let's go back to the shaft. Let's take this piece and we're going to change the extrusion on it. Let's see if it lets me do that while the threads are in place. And see what it does with it. Make that a 1. Hey, nice. Because I don't want this catching on bits of the table, depending how I set up the part. Because I'm already way beyond what I really need. I could make something more flat and hollow out the shaft and make that a screw, like I did with the gear cutters. and just have like a hub about that width there, and with a screw. I'm overthinking it. Let it go, Ed. Let it go. This piece here does not need to be that long. You know, I'm kind of good with that. Nothing that can't be fine-tuned on the belt sander or the bandsaw. And for the hell of it, I'm going to save that assembly as my grinder. Arbor. We'll save everything. Yes. Okay. We got a plan. We got something we can take dimensions off of. Rough dimensions. Yeah, these will be machining dimensions, and the rest of it's going to be fiddly hand fitting for close tolerances. So I think we're good. All right, let's go out and build the damn thing.